All right, y'all. This is your Smackdown review for May 3rd, 2024. Overall, I thought it was a decent Smackdown. I like the segment between Bobby Lashley and Carmelo Hayes. Hopefully, this builds up to a feud in the future, or he feuds with Street Profits or something. We get a good feud out of it. Just want to give a quick shout out to the Leon Friends crowd for both nights. They were there for SmackDown and Backlash. They're just doing like all chanting pretty much the whole night. Pretty much sang Randy Orton's song. His song never gets sung, like Seth Rollins or Cody Rhodes' songs. And they were just doing random chants throughout the matches. So I thought the atmosphere was great both nights. Quick shout out to the France crowd. I like the best segment of the night was easily the Paul Heyman and Nick Aldis segment in the backstage. So we got another layer to the bloodline story. Pretty much Paul Heyman told Nick Aldis that he was the one that pulled Roman Reigns out of the draft, and it wasn't Roman that pulled him out. And then he started antagonizing Heyman about who's really in charge in the bloodline. So I thought that was a great segment. Not feeling the Cody Rhodes AJ segment because there was enough time to build for their match. They just went over the history of how each guy got uh into WWE, their history. Like they both went down the same roads and stuff. They could have had a few more weeks to build it. Would have, I think people might have got invested into it, but I'm just one not feeling that feud. All right, let's get to it. Had Jade, Bianca, Bailey, and Naomi win in a eight women's tag team match against Damage Control. Just didn't really care for that. All right, next up we got the backstage segment. First it was Melo Hayes and Nick Aldis. He pretty much told Nick Aldis that he's declaring for the King of the Ring tournament for Saudi Arabia at the end of the month. So I think there's about three, four guys in it now that declared tonight. And then Lashley shows up. Lashley says, "If you need anything, call me." Melo says, "Nah, man, I'm good. I was a first round draft pick last week, and I was in the ring with the WWE champion." And then Lashley says, "It's not about the shots you shoot. It's about making those shots count. Last week you lost." And Melo says, "When's the last time you shot your shot?" A little disrespect for Melo there. And then Lashley says, "Be careful who you disrespect." So I like this segment. You see the tension was building when Lashley told him, "You got to make the shots count." So hopefully this leads to something good. It's too early to tell how good this is going to be, but I like the segment in the back with Lashley and Carmelo Hayes. All right, next up we got AOP. They won against the Jobber Tag Team. Don't really care for that. All right, backstage segment. Best segment of the night. Paul Heyman and Nick Aldis. Paul Heyman asks him, "Did you get my memo?" Nick Aldis says, "I did. Request denied." And Nick Aldis says, "You want me to pull KO and Randy Orton out of the tag match? Why?" And then Heyman responded with, "For the sake of Kevin Owens and Randy Orton. What happens to KO and Randy is on your conscience, not on mine." And then Nick Aldis says, or so Paul Heyman walks away, and then Nick Aldis still standing there, and he says, "Is that by orders of the tribal chief?" And then Paul Heyman goes back, got a serious look on his face, says, "That's not funny." And Aldis asks him, "Are you in charge?" And Heyman responds with, "There's a difference between being in charge and being in control. I haven't spoken to Roman Reigns since WrestleMania." And Nick Aldis had like the surprised look on his face. Says, "When Roman pulled himself out of the draft," and Heyman cut him off. He says, "Roman Reigns did not pull himself out of the draft. I pulled Roman Reigns out of the draft. I had no choice. I cannot subject Roman Reigns into the chaos of what's going on in the bloodline right now. And you can't do the same thing to KO and Randy Orton tomorrow night." Nick Aldis says, "Why don't you try pulling KO and Randy Orton out of their match? You can try on the RKO show." Love this segment between Nick Aldis and Paul Heyman. It's pretty clear now Roman Reigns. Maybe he's gonna come back sooner than later because I was seeing reports of maybe July or August, potentially before SummerSlam, but looks like we might get him back earlier since they keep adding more guys to the bloodline. So yeah, that was a great segment. All right, to the next one, we got the RKO show with Randy Orton and Kevin Owens. Kevin Owens says Paul Heyman had something to tell us because I picked up the phone at, I think he said 3 or 4 a.m. in the morning, and he eventually had to pick up because he kept calling and calling. Paul Heyman turning like a little stalker, man. He's harassing Kevin Owens. And then Randy Orton says, I'll introduce him to the three most destructive letters, sports entertainment, RKO. Paul Heyman comes out, and Randy Orton says, I didn't even introduce you yet. He says, with respect, admiration, and wisdom. And then KO said, you can RKO him right away. And Randy says, I'm an out of nowhere guy. I like the chemistry between Randy Orton and Kevin Owens there. Hopefully they could do some more funny segments like this. But we'll see. Usually talk shows just end up getting boring after a while. All right, and then Heyman says, or the crowd starts chanting, "We want Roman," and then Heyman says, "More than you'll ever know. I want Roman too." Says asks them, "Do everyone a favor, back out of the match." KO says, "Man, everything around you is falling apart." And then Randy asks him, "Who's the real tribal chief?" Paul Heyman says, "The world knows there's only one tribal chief." And then he was about to say it was gonna be Roman Reigns, obviously, and then Solo and Tama Tonga jump KO and Randy. And pretty much as the brawl breaks out, you got security everywhere coming out, referees. I think Hurricane and JB Noble were there. Pretty much it for that. Not a bad segment. Not as good as the Paul Heyman and the Nick Aldis segment in the back. All right, next up we got LA Knight. Pretty much wins the match against a jobber, and then he declares for the King of the Ring. Why are all the So next week they're doing the qualifying matches, and you got all these guys declaring for the King of the Ring. They should do either everybody declares for the King of the Ring tournament, or like just do make everybody qualify it for the qualifying matches. Because you got half the field pretty much declaring for the King of the Ring, and then next week they're gonna do qualifying matches. Makes no sense, man. All right, next up we got a segment in the back with Carlito. Byron Saxton asked him, "Oh, why did you attack Dragon Lee?" He's like, Rey Mysterio should have picked me instead of Dragon Lee, so that's why I attacked him." He says this wasn't personal. Dragon Lee just got in the way, and then a few seconds later, Dragon Lee jumps Carlito, and Rey Mysterio's got to pull him back. That was it for that. So Carlito's heel now, or he was heel when they showed it last week, the attack. But hopefully Dragon Lee gets on the mic and he can cut some decent promos so people can care about this feud. Otherwise, it's gonna be pointless if Carlito's the only one cutting promos for this. But these guys are LWO guys are all on Raw now, so let's continue it on Raw. All right, next up we had there was a match. Grayson Waller, Austin Theory, pretty predictable. They beat the Street Profits for the tag titles. All right, next up we got the AJ Styles Cody Rhodes segment. AJ says, "You had the path laid down for you. Everyone wanted the son of Dusty Rhodes. WWE welcomed you with open arms. You couldn't handle it, so you left. When I got here, I wasn't welcomed with open arms. I had to prove myself, work to the top, unlike you, who had Hall of Famers and legends watching your back so you could finish your story at WrestleMania." And then Cody grabs the mic, says, "Don't disparage me. Tomorrow, I'm not looking at you as phenomenal. I'm looking at you as my first opponent. or I think he just said, did he say first victim or first opponent? I can't remember. Said one of those things. And then they do the too sweet thing, like back in the day with the NWO. It's just lame and not cool when these guys do it though. So they did that, and then hold on, where is it? Yeah, right there. And then AJ slaps Cody, and then that was pretty much it for that. And then Bloodline and RKO, they're having a brawl backstage to end the show. So they had pretty much two brawls on the show between the Bloodline and Randy Orton, Kevin Owens to end the show. So I love the chaos between all four of those guys. There's brawling everywhere. So yeah, that was pretty much it for SmackDown. See ya.